America has fallen in love with long shot sports bets. There's a great deep dive in the Wall Street Journal all about parlays, the tough to win multi-part wagers with tantalizing payouts. They're bringing in casual and newbie gamblers, and betting companies are making a killing. And it opens with an anecdote about a football fan decided to make 14 predictions on NFL players' performances over several games one Sunday in December, including touchdowns, receiving yards, and rushing yards. She used a $10 credit from the betting company to place a multi-leg bet. If every player lived up to her expectations, she would win $22,000. This is the levering up.
This is why people say if you sign up, you can pay for college with parlays. You just need to sign up for DraftKings and 3 others using their free credits. And just if you hit all 4 parlays, college paid for. This is why degenerate gamblers will say, clearly, sports betting is the solution to our higher education crisis.
Yeah, I mean, you just look at this and you're like, okay, $10 wagered, 22,000 potential win. Like, clearly the odds are 1 in 5,000.
Yeah,
obviously. And so as the NFL games unfolded, 13 of her picks hit. Only one player stood between her and the cash. Los Angeles Rams wide receiver Cooper Kupp, who needed 70 more receiving yards. He got 17 and she lost it all. Getting so close, it's a little heartbreaking, she said. Call it the new American lottery ticket, exciting for potential big jackpots, but with painfully slim chances to win. America's biggest gambling companies, however, are making a killing. The multi-leg bets called parlays deliver a bigger cut of money to sportsbooks after paying out winners than single bets. Of course, because it's very hard to calculate what are the actual odds here. And so you go to the roulette table, it's very clear that your odds of winning are like 49%.
Well, yeah, and
48%.
Any one of the bets that somebody's making is believable by itself. Yeah. But there's so much randomness that collectively, again, it's 1 in 5,000. Drives down the odds.
And so sports betting companies are raking in cash in one of the busiest times of the year, the lead up to the Super Bowl. Flashy ads highlight special offers for bonus bets on parlays and other offers for newbies. Parlays accounted for 27% of the money wagered on all sports bet last year through October in Illinois, New Jersey, and Colorado, states in which gambling regulators report data by bet type. That's cool. That's up from 22% of all sports bets in 2021. These multi-leg bets delivered about 56% of sports betting revenue.
27% of the bets are delivering over half their revenue.
Yep.
A quarter of the bets delivering half the revenue.
Yep.
Wild.
Multi-leg bets are so lucrative that FanDuel parent company Flutter Entertainment recently increased its expectation for total online gambling revenues in the U.S. to $63 billion by 2030, up from its estimate of $40 billion 2 years ago.
There's some statistic, I don't actually know what it is, but it says something like for every $1 put into the sports market, it's like sports betting is like $3 that wasn't invested. Like it's some because you're just like drained. Yeah. It's just like we should actually pull up the actual
it's a wealth transfer. It's you don't want to bet against the casino. You want to invest in the casino.
Yeah.
Like, the real alpha here is like, hey, who's making the money? Okay.
And this is why it was smart, Joey Levy and Jake Paul. How do you monetize the most mass market U.S. consumer base of young people?
Yep.
The Paul brothers audience.
Yep.
Sports betting, especially as that audience has matured slightly.
Companies and their media partners are pouring money into advertising the bets, and they're engaging celebrities from Charles Barkley to Kevin Hart and armies of smaller influencers to put together parlays that bettors can latch onto, all while hyping games to attract viewers. Old school gamblers prefer traditional wagers, such as single bets on who will win a game. Think of parlays as a ripoff. Some call them sucker bets because their long odds make it nearly impossible to regularly win money. But fans of parlays say that while the wagers are true long shots, the appeal of winning 5 figures from $5 is too strong to pass up. And I completely agree with that. Like if you put $5, you're going to watch a game and it's probably going to be free because it's just on TV. If you put $10 in and there's this like thing in the back of your mind, like, oh, I could win $20,000 or whatever.
It's way more entertaining.
It's way more entertaining, and that's the equivalent of like a movie ticket.
So I've never placed a sports bet on an app.
Me either.
And every now and then, if it's like
it's great that
if
we're
it's like the Super
on
Bowl, yeah, geopolitical experts,
sports betting experts,
efficiency experts, sports betting experts.
Get ready.
We're almost ready to be VCs.
Yeah, 100%.
But So every now and then, like watching the Super Bowl, I'll tell a buddy like, okay, like I'll bet you $50 or $100 that team. I don't know anything about it. I'm like, I'm so bored. I'm bored out of my mind. I got to watch the Super Bowl. Yeah. I may as well put some money on the line, but I've never really understood the appeal. But one thing I've noticed specifically from watching, because UFC is the only sport that I sort of follow relatively closely outside of F1.
Yep.
And man, people are so savage to the actual fighters because UFC is this sort of very linear night, right? So you have the early prelims, the prelims, and then the actual the title fight and the full card. And so oftentimes people will do like a 10-leg parlay because they just get to watch throughout the night. Yep. And let's say like in one of the prelim fights, the favorite doesn't win. People immediately, the fighters actually have to turn off their comments on Instagram because people will flood their most recent post and just call them an idiot. Like, you messed up my parlay, you lost me 50 grand. And even later in the night, let's say, it's just like really like people are just become so cruel once their money is on the line.
Totally.
And in sports, it's more of like a collective effort, but within fighting or something like tennis or things like that, it just ends up being like, it's really dark, right? Because this fighter just lost a fight, which is their career, and now they're getting dunked on by like a bunch of 18-year-old kids saying like you lost me all this money.
I wonder if there's something about like you mentioned like putting $50K down. Obviously, that's going to be like a much more emotional loss for anyone, really.
Yeah.
And so it's going to drive this like incredible fervor. I wonder if like the vanilla like lottery ticket that you get at the gas station, is it just harder to functionally spend 10 grand in there because they have to print so many tickets, or can they size up your ticket? I've only bought like one lottery ticket.
I'm sure they can size it up.
So you can say
gambling companies have been on a decades.
But the lottery might be set up differently. It might be we can't take $1,000. We can't put $1,000 on this ticket. Because there's something about like if the parlays, I think the conversation will get into some of the morality and some of the reaction around this, but I think if it was like, yes, you can do these crazy parlays that pay out $20K, but they're capped at $10. So like anyone can only lose $10 on them on these platforms. Like it would be a very different conversation, because then it's like, you watched all of UFC and you paid $10. That's like the equivalent of buying a popcorn there. And so like maybe, like for some people, they're going to spend $10 every single day that will have a financial impact, but still that's only $3,000 as opposed to like in a year, as opposed to, spending 50 grand and losing it all because you took this crazy bet. Anyway, let's move on to the effect of these parlays. They're providing a boost to online gambling companies already struggling with profitability after big spending on marketing and customer incentives to win market share and keep gamblers coming back. So there's been this like kind of duopoly, I believe, in the market, and they've been really duking it out.
Well, and they're all going, if you sign up here, the thing that seems, so one thing that's come out over the last couple of years is that these apps, they actually are trying to provide this sort of same experience that you get from shopping at like an Hermes store, where you have a point of contact.
Yes.
And they'll,
this is crazy.
My favorite luxury brand is Bottega Veneta. Multiple people from Bottega Veneta stores around LA that I bought from will text me, hey, we just got these in the store. Like, I think you'd like them. And so the same thing happens on FanDuel or DraftKings, where they'll say, hey, I put this bet together for you. I put this package together, and it's there's people that get addicted to shopping, but sports betting addiction is very
definitely
real,
harder hitting, and
destroys families. And so these platforms are somewhat complicit in encouraging this addictive behavior.
And so DraftKings and FanDuel, the duopoly that we mentioned, they control roughly 80% of the sports betting market in the U.S. They offer individual wagers that bettors can combine into their own parlays. And they also promote, as you mentioned, their fully formed parlays, often with colorful nicknames and storylines, such as Believe Land for the NBA Cleveland Cavaliers that drew it on a nickname for the city's sports fandom. For the Christmas Day game between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Pittsburgh Steelers, DraftKings offered a 6-pack parlay involving 5 players, including quarterback Patrick Mahomes' passing yards, tight end Travis Kelce's receiving yards, and a bet that the Chiefs would win. The sportsbook offered odds in the parlay dubbed Merry Chiefsmas, that amounted to a 7.7% chance of winning, paying $13 on a $1 bet.
Can you imagine being a player? You're just trying to play the game, and then somebody tells you, "Oh, by the way, there's $5 million with you riding on getting more than 30 yards." Like,
yeah.
and if you don't do it, you're gonna get a bunch of hate messages and comments from people that just aren't treating you like a human. They're just treating you as their little bet piggy.
And that's exactly what happened. It said Mary Chiefsmith was a loser after one leg that Isaiah Pacheco would log 25 or more rushing yards failed to come true. Parlays can all take place on one game.
The players obviously benefit indirectly from this, right?
It drives up viewership.
Yeah, it drives viewership. It drives sponsorship dollars to the sport broadly. But imagine having that much very specific pressure. Not play well, do your best, but like you need to achieve 25 or more rushing yards or all your fans are going to lose a bunch of money and you're not even involved with putting together the bet. Like you might wake up and you're like, I feel like I'm good for like 15 today, but like 25 is a stretch.
It's wild. I love this part of the article. The Wall Street Journal placed 209 $1 bets in recent months on parlays promoted on FanDuel and DraftKings on a range of sports. It's like for their deep dive journalism article, they're like, we got to bet. We got to gamble a lot. And so they bet on professional basketball and baseball to college football. They won only 8 of the wagers out of 209. I think it's maybe a skill issue. I got to get good. You got to have an edge. That meant that gambling companies took in $113.21 of the total. So they lost like $100 betting. Yeah, it's funny. With sports betting,
was it worth?
Did they have fun though?
Did they have $113.21 of entertainment?
Exactly. That's the real question.
Because that's a real argument here. The pro sports betting argument is that we're making this is an entertainment product that's like going to the movies.
Yep.
And we're just providing you that in the form of this, tantalizing odds of financial gain.
Yeah. It's you know that if you're a fantastic sports bettor, you will get banned.
Yeah.
This is the real like dark side of this, is that they're only selecting for like the real losers. So if you're on the app after a month,
Yeah. If you think you're good, but you can still log into your account, like you're not.
Yeah. If your DraftKings app is still working after a month, work on yourself, King.
Yeah, focus on yourself.
Sure. Focus on yourself. There's some interesting history under cracking the math here. The parlay craze got its start in the United States when Flutter Entertainment imported one of its hottest products in Australia. I didn't know that this is where they came from. Parlays, known as multis in Australia, had been widely available for betting on multiple events. Then a bettor asked Flutter's brand in Australia, Sportsbet, why he couldn't place a multi-leg bet on a single sporting event. Flutter and Sportsbet began an effort to crack the math needed to fulfill that request. The math quickly becomes more complicated in a single game because of the knock-on effects of how athletes perform. How well a quarterback throws the ball in the game, for example, affects the performances of wide receivers catching the quarterback's passes. And so you have to calculate all these conditional odds. In 2016,
the brightest minds in computer science are making sure that we can do our same game parlays.
Yes. In 2016, Sportsbet launched a new product that allowed customers to make single event parlays. 3 years later, Flutter introduced the same product in the US on FanDuel as the single game parlay. Everything needs to be connected to everything else, so the math is complex. Connor Farren, Senior Vice President at FanDuel, said of sports betting, sports product and pricing. He said they don't give the name much thought, but it soon went viral in the United States. The same game style of betting has since spread across the sports betting industry around the world. And I remember, have you seen that Uncut Gems? There's that meme, let's bet on this. And in that, like the whole plot of the story revolves around a crazy parlay. Yeah. I think there's like a few in the plot, maybe one in Act 1 that doesn't go well, and I think he hits it at the end or something like that. But it's like just clearly like he paints. He's an incredible actor, and he paints this portrait of this like really broken gambler, and it's not like an inspirational story. Like it
was the most stressful movie I've seen in a theater. I remember seeing it. I think I saw it on like Christmas Day, and I walked out. I was like, that was such a bad pick.
I did the same thing
because it was a great film.
Yep.
Because it was so engaging, but it was a terrible for that moment.
I mean, the Safdie brothers, the funny thing is that they have another movie with Robert Pattinson. Ben's talking about it. I forget what that one's called, but it's even more like gut wrenching because it's just like a much darker story. And so I was kind of prepped. And so I came out of Uncut Gems being like, that was rough, but like, at least it was like a little bit funnier and a little bit more entertaining than the last one, which was awful.
Yeah.
Good Times. Yeah. Good Time or something. That was a rough movie. I think a lot of people that saw Uncut Gems, hopefully they got the message that like, this is a very dark and rough world, and it should be avoided unless you're like at a bachelor party with your bros and like you want to throw $5 in or something. Like
I mean Joey Levy. I don't actually. Sorry, Joey. Love you. He had been working on this micro betting product for years that I believe DraftKings purchased, but it was one of the first products to allow like real-time betting on specific plays.
Yep.
Because a lot of this stuff they decide ahead of the game.
Yep.
And then maybe they adjust the odds throughout. But this is saying, will the quarterback throw a 20-yard pass this next play? Right. So that's like you could theoretically be placing hundreds of bets in a single game, reacting to how the game's unfolding. So I can believe the. I'm glad I'm addicted to angel investing and not sports betting because it's less addictive, because it just takes like 5 years to play out. You're sort of like waiting. Oh, January 1, I got an update. Like, let me refresh my, email.
If I ever got into sports betting, I know I would just be betting on like the most obscure and arcane things. Like, did the
amateur Chinese tennis?
Not even that. Just like, did the football hit the uprights? What's the coin toss going to be? How many fights break out during this hockey match? Like, I'm not concerned with the actual scores or points at all.
Well, the people that get really, really into this do end up betting on
weird things.
They'll be up at 2 a.m. betting on Australian tennis, and it's like, that's a dark place when it becomes not at all about the actual game and just entirely about trying to win. Do whatever you can to win.
Let's go to some of the reactions because there's some good posts from friends of the show. We got Will Menitis there.
Will Menitis says, or Bill Menitis, some people call him. In retrospect, legalizing sports betting was a horrible idea, and this is a hard thing, right? Because I have friends that love sports betting. I have friends that have built products in this space.
It's certainly libertarian and like land of the free. Like
Ross
people do what they want.
Ulbricht would love sports betting. He didn't really get to participate in the rise, but.
Will had another post. I didn't print it out, but he had said something like, you can always track when because all of the sports betting was made like the purview of the states by the Supreme Court in 2018, and so it was up to states whether or not they want to legalize it. And so state by state, there has been regulation to legalize sports betting, and he was saying that it's like a very bad sign for the economic future of a state if they legalize sports betting, because it's kind of like we're out of ideas for ways to generate revenue. We used to make cars here, but we can't do that anymore. So we're just going to do sports betting.
No, I think the thing about one of the argument to legalize sports betting for states is this is happening via bookies and Venmo and Zelle, and we're not getting any of that tax revenue. It's already happening. Let's do it. But then
it clearly grows the market.
Then it starts, then it grows the market. Then it's being advertised to children, and it ends up going to a dark place. Liquidity says there's absolutely no good reason why sports betting or online gaming is still illegal in many states when you've got teenagers freely speculating on highly volatile stocks and options on their phones. I think
so he's pro.
I think his point is that teenagers are going to find a way to bet one way or another, and so
the difference is that if you're buying an asset on a trading app and you're investing in like the global economy or the American economy. This has
some benefit for the markets.
It's positive sum, and it's gone up historically over a long period of time. And of course, you can get into crazier options trading and stuff. But in general, the idea of like allowing everyone to invest in the S&P 500, which has grown and been very positive sum on average, whereas sports betting has been very negative sum on average, or zero sum. And so, a person who's dollar cost averaging into the S&P is going to wind up with a lot of money at the end of the day. And that's like pretty well established economic theory. Whereas a person who's spending $10 a day on sports betting is just going to wind up losing a ton.
Yeah. Pomp here says, America has become a gambling society. 0-day options, meme coins, sports betting. Everyone takes more risk when the currency is being destroyed. So this definitely resonated, especially with the Bitcoin crowd, I imagine. But yeah, cash is trash. Sitting in your account, not doing much. Why not put it on a 20-leg parlay? Take you to Valhalla. Yeah, and I think the point here that he's making is 99% of sports bettors quit before they're about to hit it big. The meme of the guy of the miner, like turning around.
Yeah, I mean it's funny because it's like it's easy to be like, oh, like crypto is just as like messy as sports betting, but like at least crypto does have Bitcoin, which is like kind of like the S&P 500 of crypto in the sense that it's like not that degenerate. To put just a dollar cost average into Bitcoin isn't that crazy, but there isn't really that analogy for sports betting. There's nothing where it's like, oh, this person's actually like reasonably investing in sports. Like
the thing with even doing momentum investing and investing in meme stocks is when you lose, there's some lesson around. I invested in this hyper overvalued stock. Yeah, it dropped 90%, but it still has some intrinsic value. And this is a good lesson of maybe don't follow the herd and do better research. When you lose on a sports bet, you're just like so mad that this tennis player like didn't pull out a win when the other 8 tennis players did, and you're just like pissed off. But there's no real lesson, and then the intrinsic value of a failed parlay is like
nothing,
basically nothing.
And then also like when you win really big in the sports betting world, you get kicked off the app. When you win really hard in the crypto world, you get a fund. Like you get rewarded with more of that, and that's just not the case in sports betting. People just won't take your bets because they'll know you have an edge of some sort.
Yeah, Sagar and Jetty says he's sharing a article where it says DraftKings sued after father of 2 gambles away $1 million of his family's money. His kids' Christmas money and baptism gifts were also plundered, along with his wife's bank accounts and credit cards, according to a newly filed federal lawsuit.
Wow.
So Sagar says this man did not place a single bet before 2020. By 2024, he gambled away $1 million and left his family destitute. Along the way, DraftKings assigned VIP hosts who spoke to him daily and facilitated his access to more gambling products while knowing his family status. Oof. And so this is the dark side of sports betting, and is why I've never invested in sports betting.
It's rough
product, and don't plan to.
Yeah, it's driven by those whales. Like the good bettors get kicked off. The mediocre bettors just sit there betting.
This guy basically drove $250,000 a year of profit.
Yeah.
Incremental.
Enough to pay for a full-time VIP host. It's crazy.
Well, yeah, and those hosts you can imagine can work across hundreds of individual players, maybe even thousands. Just sending out little DMs. Hey, you see the game later? You excited for the game later? That's fucking dark.
Yeah.
We don't swear on this show, but that's
dark.
Freaking dark. That's freaking dark.
Imagine your guy texts you.
As Zuck would say, that's freaking dark.
Imagine you get a text like, you see the game? You excited for the game tonight? And it's like, some game of cricket, and you're like, nah, actually.
What if I gave you 100 to 1 odds?
What if I gave you? But you could win $1 million for just $1.
I had an Office rerun on last night, and Kevin is like, anytime somebody gives you 100 to 1 odds, you take it. It's too good.
It's too good. That's great.